Hello and welcome to my teacher YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be giving you guys a tutorial on how to write the perfect research paper. So after reading the comments on the weekly check-in, which if you haven't done that, I really need you to do that so I know how to better assist you in this e-learning experience. There were some comments about, requesting a video or further explanation, kind of getting stuck on this assignment. And after grading the first week, I kind of wanted to address some of the major issues I saw throughout a lot of the writing. So throughout this video, I'll show you some really good examples of some week ones that got like perfect scores on it. I'll talk you through how to cite citations, what a primary source is, those kind of things. So let's get started.
Okay, so I have two different examples I'm going to show you today. They're broken up into the four things that I'm looking for when I grade this. You have some context, you give me two pieces of evidence with analysis, and then you have the conclusion. So this first one I'm going to show you was written about music. So they start off with the context, right? So they say in the 1960s and early 70s, people were starting to stand up for themselves. Segregation was becoming a problem, and people involved were protesting. The economy, on the other hand, was flourishing, and politically there was upheaval as JFK was shot in 1963. So there we know what we're dealing with in the 1960s and 70s. So then in 1969, there was a massive music festival called Woodstock. It was a place where hippies and other music enthusiasts gathered and watched several performances over 2 days. So now we have an intro, we know what they're talking about, we know they're going to be talking about music. Here is their first primary source example. We know it's primary because if we look at the date here, 1969. The Festival of Contemporary Music and Arts had originally been announced for August 16th and 17th as a 2-day event expected to draw crowds of 100,000 per day. Here is their analysis. Music was growing and it was very important, especially to the younger generation who would grow up making music. So again, they have an in-text citation. This is their primary source. They're relating it back. They're analyzing it, showing us music was important, and they're going to continue to kind of draw upon this in other ones because they're talking about growing up making music. So here's their secondary source. So people started to get creative with music. In the 1970s, music began to be created for artistic reasons rather than financial ones. Music became a creative form of expression that changed the way music was created. So this one is a secondary source. So if you scroll down, the reason they don't have a date on this one is their source has no date, right? So they got this from woodstock.com. The article is called The Effects of Woodstock, so I know it's secondary, right? It's coming from a .com. And so they only had to put the name of the source. People began to create music not just to gain money. After Woodstock, which is how it's done mostly today, it made the music more creative and people put a little bit more effort and overall ended up making more money because of it. So again, that italicized part is the analysis. They're explaining what that means. Then the last part is their conclusion. So here's where they're tying it back into the essential question and kind of bringing those two pieces of evidence together. Culture during this time was changing. People started to branch off and do other things. Woodstock made people change their point of view with how music was made. It inspired people to create music from their heart rather than their head. They no longer wanted to produce music just for money, but for the joy it brought them as well. So again, they're kind of tying it back, giving that nice conclusion, bringing in their essential question of culture. So this is a really good example, a nice concise one. The other example I want to show you is broken up into those same parts, but what I really liked this one, so again, they have an excellent context here. So they break it down how it was evolving. So they have here's the evolve part, whoa. They have the government question, which involves how it's evolving and changing. So first they break it down socially. There's the Vietnam War. Economically, it was starting to slow down, and then a bunch of political issues. And then they go into the role of the government. So the role of the government greatly evolved with events such as Gideon versus Wainwright. So they give an example. Here's the Supreme Court case. Again, its primary source, 1962. I really like their analysis because they really connect it back. If we look here, by looking at the context of this time period, there was a strong desire for equality among everyone and for people to be granted more rights, like with the civil rights movement. So I also wanted to bring up this one because they really do a great job of tying it back into the context of it all. And again, This shows, like for this next one, with this piece of evidence here, this shows that during this time, people were no longer tolerating unfair and unjust laws. So I really like this example because they really bring it back into the context and they really talk about that essential question. If you look at their conclusion, the role of the government is to enforce laws and most importantly, enforce laws equally and fairly. During this time, the government rapidly evolved and changed because people were pushing for more fair laws. So this is a really good example if you're kind of stuck on how do I bring that thesis back into it. You can check here where this one really shows. I liked the way that they had the different sources there. So then at the end, they've got their primary source, and I highlighted or bolded the part you need for the in-text citation, which is either the author or the source it came from, and then the year. So I'll post these things on Canvas so that you guys can look through them. So let me know if you have any questions. You can email me, please, and I will help you out with anything. If you need help finding primary sources, secondary sources, you want me to read through anything, we gotta really make sure we're turning these things in, okay? Hope you guys are having a great e-learning experience. I miss you all. Can't wait to be back in the classroom, but just wanted to make a little video explaining some of those questions. Let me know if this was helpful and I can make more for future assignments as we kind of move on. Hope to see you soon.